everybody, and thanks for watching another episode of BYA video review. I'm Dario from BYA, and today I would like to thank our partners of Inateck for letting us review this great product, which, as you might have noticed by the image on camera, is a USB 3.0 portable HDD enclosure. Before starting this video review, I'm just going to tell you that it will be a little bit longer because the article will not be translated in English, but I hope that doing an entire video review in English might help our foreign followers, our foreign friends, to take advantage of the video review and of the products that we are able to review and to test out. So, starting with the unpackage, to be honest, we just took it a little bit in advance just to take off the parts, but we didn't do really much. So this is the product, and on the other compartment we have the cable. The instruction manual lays already on the table, as you might have seen, and that's it. Now we're going to take this out for space. Everything you are seeing in the instruction manual and everything that you will read in the instruction will also be covered in this review, so we could leave it apart. So this is the HDD enclosure. Now, prior to anything else, let me say that often in the video review I'll call it simply enclosure or HDD enclosure, but to be honest, the enclosure supports any 2.5 standard devices. What does it mean? Simple. You could put inside a normal HDD or a more modern, reliable and lighter solid-state drive. Without any problem, you could use both of them, of course singularly because it's for one drive only, without any other wondering. Another thing to point out, as we said before and it's clearly written on the package here, it's USB 3.0. Now what does it mean? Well, on the most evident side of this aspect, the USB 3.0 standard grants you a faster file transfer speed, but that's not all. In fact, if you ever have used a standard enclosure for an HDD of 2.5 format, you might have seen something as ugly and as tedious, such as this. I'm sure you are used to these ugly cables which have on one side the classical mini or micro USB connector, and on the other side this ugly and highly impractical two-way USB connector. Now this is of course due to the fact that they need to bring up the extra power, since a standard USB only irrigates 500 milliamperes of power, and usually they use one for power and the other one for data, or vice versa, accordingly to the computer. But this is not the problem. The problem is that on a desktop PC you might have two USB ports very near, even on the front panel, and you could use these two things. But many often, let's emphasize this, on laptop computers you do not have two USB ports, neither so near, neither on the same side of the laptop. So usually you have to stretch it out, those things at the limit of their structural ability, or even worse, you have to use tedious external USB hub with all the problems they lead to, more commonly with the problem of an external power source in order to play and boot these devices. Now, with USB 3.0, this problem is completely on the past. As you might see here, you have just one connector from one side, one connector from the other. Stop. For the peace of your mind, just plug and play, literally. And to reassure everyone who might be in trouble now, say, oh my god, but I don't have a 3.0 standard on my PC, don't worry. This will work even on USB 2.0 or worse, USB 1.0. Of course, speed will be reduced, but it will work without any problem. Now, let's emphasize another thing which is not, interestingly, on the table, so it means that there is not inside the box. If you have ever bought one of these things, so I'm talking about general HDD enclosure for 2.5 standard, you might have seen that from the box usually come out strange screwdrivers or strange tools in general to pop it open and to screw in place the device. Well, as you might have seen, we do not have nothing on the table. It doesn't mean that I have forgotten to put out of the box. It simply means that there is no need of any screws or any particular tools to open the Inateck HDD enclosure. How is that possible? By a simple yet ingenious slide and push. As you can see, by putting the Inateck logo away from you, just push, slide it until it reveals, you see, this little inner part, which means that all the upper cover slides far away, and then you can pop it open, like this. Now, as you can see, we have already inserted a standard 2.5 HDD, but we're taking it out in order to demonstrate how easy it is to put in and out any kind of drive or device from the enclosure. Now, putting away the cover for a second, as you can see, there is plenty of space inside the enclosure for your fingers. Even mine, which are not particularly thinner, have sufficient space, to move things around, to correctly put the align marks on it, and then to push and lock, like this, the device in place. So it's so simple that really, in barely 30 seconds, you are up and ready to go. Another great thing of this enclosure, as you can see here, the logic board is completely sealed in place and held by 2 screws. What does it mean? As you might have seen, but if you've never seen, I'm telling you right now, in many other enclosures, this part where resides the logic board and the circuit for powering and reading through and far the drive, it's always open, and so it's exposed to dust, to whatever accidental, and I hope only accidental, damage which could occur to it. Vice versa, in this case, is completely sealed, which means that every time you pop open the enclosure and you substitute the device inside it, you will not risk any damage, you will not risk that powder or dust comes inside this part and lead to a short circuit of it. This all contributes to the most interesting, on my point of view, side of this enclosure, which is the really easy way of opening and substituting, inserting, of changing, or swapping, call it whatever you like, but the fact does not change that you can open it and in just 10 seconds, really, you can change the drive inside it and you're ready to go. Now, let's close it, just like we do before. So the Inateck logo should be away from you. Now remember that, push it back until it makes half slide. Okay, now it's ready. Slide it back, and that's it. Now, the importance of picking up the right orientation of the logo is not only because, of course, if you put the upper place in a wrong position, it will not slide down. But also because, as you can see here, there is a transparent or semi-transparent insert in the plastic, which is just not here for stylish. But it is here because behind there is the LED, which lets you understand if the unit is powered on, if it's working, and how it's working. Just like the classic LED you have on the PC or on the desktop computer, which indicates if the hard drive is reading, writing, or idle. Now, another point of interest of this enclosure is, as you can see here, this little button. This button is actually very useful because it's an off-on switch. It really gives you the full control on the Inateck enclosure. In most of the cases, it might happen that if you connect your external enclosure to your PC and you accidentally forgot to disable the BIOS settings for booting up from an external drive, your computer starts mad, starts crazy, because it says, I'm trying to boot from an external device, what the hell are you doing, there is no external device, blah blah blah. I'm sure every user, especially every Windows user, might have experienced this problem. Well, with the Inateck enclosure, you could easily plug in and then leave the switch on the off position until the computer is full powered up and is fully booted. Then, when you need it, you just move the plug on the on position. As you can see, it's a hard plug, so it's really difficult to move it accidentally, and it will power up and it will start working. Another interesting feature of this button is that it gives you the ability to keep plugged in the old device even if you are not using constantly. So if you just need, a sporadic access to it, like most of the case it happens when you use with a laptop in order to extend the memory capacity of the laptop itself, or if you need an external backup drive. Well, in any of the cases, it happens on the laptop with normal enclosure that you always have to remove the drive physically from the laptop in order not to leave it on and on and on. Of course, in useless hours of idle time that at the end will, especially for HDD, have a negative impact on their performances. Now, with a simple switch, you can put it on and off whenever you need. As for the enclosure itself, some of the watchers might say, okay, yes, nice, but this is way too big from the other enclosure I have seen. Now, this is not really true. I know it might seem strange, but due to the fact that it has curved shapes and not right squared shapes, it might appear way too big for a portable enclosure. It is not, and to demonstrate, I have here a common enclosure, which is of the thin sides. It's still a USB 3.0, it's still a 2.5 factor, so standard, but from another manufacturer. And this is aluminum and not plastic, but basically this is not a difference in proportions. As you can see, they are almost identical. Even if we put one another here, as you can see, difference is barely minimum. You see, mainly this is because of the round shape. Even the depth isn't so different from one to another. But the great advantage of the Inateck product is that, as mentioned before, you can slide it open without any screwdriver. That's it, and you pop it open. Try doing the same with this. It's haptic. You need here and here, you will see better in the photos. There are two particular very tiny screws which needs to be put it out, and then you need to slide all the inner part of the things to pop it open. So it is not something you can do just like we do here with the Inateck. And more importantly, if you lose one of the screws, you are basically doomed, because they have a so peculiar format that you have to spend hours on the internet trying to find the right place to buy the replaceables for them. Instead, with Inateck, you do not have any problem. It just slides back and close, or slides up and open. That's it. As easy. As you can see, I'm doing it in the video right now, and it opens and closes easily without any problem. And this, from my point of view, is a great advantage for this product. Another point that I would like to point out, and I'm sorry if this video is a little bit longer than usual, but as said before, since the article will be mainly in Italian, I thought about making a video in English which might help our English followers to understand the product and to benefit, or at least I hope to benefit, from this video review. Now, getting back to the product. On the bottom side, on the sides here, I'm trying to make you clear on video, but you have a clear version on the photos. You have these two plastic points, let's go like that. They are support points, 2 for each side, 4 in total, which are of course supports for all the enclosure, in order to avoid it moving occasionally on the table. But more importantly, on other products you might be used to those things made with rubber or silicone rubber, which is nice because they feel soft and they give a great touchy design. But after a week of two, you might encounter the uh, terrible aspects where they get used and they are not useful anymore. This leads to two problems. First of all, when the rubber ones are out, are exhausted, all the enclosure is free to move on the table, and it's not really good for the security of your hard drive or your SSD drive, whatever. And on the other side, there is also another problem. Using a solid plastic ABS support, the Inateck assured a constant, even if it's small, but it's constant distance between the table and the case itself. This means that there is always a constant and minimum airflow which passes from the sides and of course from top and the bottom, so everywhere the air can flow, and this helps dissipate the excess thermal heat, which, as you might know, these tiny things often develop, especially when used with HDD drives. With this selection, basically Inateck solves the problem and also frees you from the necessity to searching for substitute rubber pins or whatever you might find in house to replace those things. Speaking about rubber, you might have seen before that we pulled out this thing from the box. As you correctly guessed, I hope too, this is a foam shock absorbent pad. It is inserted one already inside the box, and I'll show you, and another one is a spare part. Actually, it's not really a spare part. I'll let you know why. Let's pull out our HDD. That's it. And here, on the top side, as mentioned before, you have the second shock absorbent pad. As you can see, it's totally equal to the other one, except this one is already glued in position. Why they give you another one? For two reasons. First of all, you might be enough distracted or enough bad with self-making movements, let's say like this, that you damage this one, so you might need to change it. I really hope you are not so bad at doing touch things to destroy this pad. So the real use of this pad is if you are using an SSD device. As you might know, SSD devices are thinner than the hard drive, so when using the SSD drive, you need to stick this one in position in the back plate. As you can see, you'll see better in picture of course, here the molding stamp already impressed the sign, which is of course dedicated to the pad. So just put the pad in position, and here it is. Of course, if you're using an SSD, you need to peel off the adhesive tape and then glue it in position. Now, we are just demonstrating it. In this way, when you use the SSD device, both of the two pads will compensate for the thinner hard drive, and when you close it, they will basically pinch the SSD in a position and assure it a good standing. Of course, all of this is well explained here in the instruction manuals on this side. Here it is, as you can see. Attention, package contains an extra foam sticker of 7mm thickness hard drives. You should attach the sticker to the original one inside the HDD before insert the drive. Basically what we said. The instruction also mentioned the 7mm hard drives. Actually, I believe they are referring to the SSD drives because in most of the cases, the hard drives, so the HDD, like those one of 2.5 form factors, are all the same. Some of them might have a bigger enclosure, but we are speaking literally of few millimeters here, so it doesn't change very much. Basically, one shock absorbent foam is perfect for the use with this one. Of course, please keep in mind that if you are using an HDD drive, you are not benefiting from the high resistance, shock proof, let's say like that, features of the solid state drives. So please do treat your HDD enclosure and the inside HDD with respect. The ABS plastic with which Inateck produces this product is exceptionally solid and durable, but of course it is not made to be thrown away or to be hidden or to be walked away with your car. So please remember this. Now, that's it. You'll find the link for buying the Inateck products below in the comments of the video, but also inside our article, and of course in many other parts inside the article where they might be useful. I do remember you that Inateck sells directly on Amazon, so you can enjoy your Prime account benefit and you can freely order all the products you want from the Inateck webpage, on Amazon of course, and enjoy the fast free shipping in 2-3 working days. Thanks for everyone for watching, and for photos and other description I remember you that there is the gallery inside our article. Again, thanks to Inateck for providing with their external enclosure and letting us review it, and thanks for everybody watching and for having the patience of this at least 20 minutes video. Thank you everybody, this is Dario from BYA.